Hello, everybody. This is Kirsten here at Mikkani, and we continue our videos on leadership. And today we're going to be covering the topic of empathy in leadership. And we have a wonderful guest, Jared Bull, he's a professional speaker and executive coach, and he helps empower companies, managers, executives, and CEOs to run their companies at peak performance. He also works with wellness professionals to expand their online business using the power of social media. And also, he has a successful online blog and YouTube channel with 25,000 subscribers. So I highly recommend you head on over there and look at what he has to offer. So welcome, Jared, and hello, Annie. I'm
Hi,
wondering,
how are
Annie,
you?
maybe you can start us off.
Okay. Hello, Jared. Nice meeting
Hey,
you.
hey, Annie.
Um,
Thanks for
well,
having me, guys. I'm excited for this.
since we are not gonna talk, we're gonna talk about empathy. We've been doing a lot of videos about the leadership skills, and empathy is extremely important for us. So the first question will be if we see empathy as the simplest form of like putting yourself in someone else's shoe,
Mm,
that would be like the simplest definition of empathy. However, psychology today has a more detailed definition, like understanding another person's thoughts,
mm,
feelings, and even the filter of how they can see or feel things.
mm, mm,
Like something I talk a lot with my clients is knowledge is the mind
mhm,
and wisdom is the heart. So when you
mm,
use the heart, the definition changes completely because you're connecting with your empathy.
mhm,
Um, the first thing that I saw was one of the videos that you have in one of your blogs, and it was amazing of how soldiers can become better learners with empathy
mm,
in
mm.
compared with soldiers with only basic combat lifesaver skills. I don't know if you can explain us a little bit of that. So our
Sure, absolutely. So really, I got into the military when I was 18 years old. So I was very, very young. I was leading men into combat at 18 years old. And so for me, I'd always been an empathetic individual, but the training kind of closed me off to my empathy as much because ultimately I was a machine gunner. So I was trained to take human life. And I was very caught up in the mind. I had been really placed in this egotistical mindset where it's like us versus them mentality. And I think that's a dangerous mentality to get into because anytime we're in that dualistic type of thinking, naturally we're going to objectify the other person. And so really I got actually closed off from my heart in my training. A lot of military training is actually just closing you off from your heart, especially in the Marine Corps, because it's very, very intense. So that was really the military conditioning that I experienced. But I had this experience my first month in combat where I had one of my friends die next to me. And when that happened, it was really amazing. I felt this heart expansion. I felt this conscious expansion. And I didn't have words for this till years later. But when my friend died next to me, we were in the middle of a firefight. So I was shooting at the enemy. They were shooting at us. It was very, very intense. He died next to me. And as soon as he died next to me, I had this expansion experience in my awareness where I was not just me. I was like everything. I think traditional psychologists would call a dissociative experience, but it wasn't dissociation for me. I'm very aware of that. I was very grounded. I was very much in my body. Just my awareness of everything had expanded. And so I felt myself in my body, but I also felt like I was part of the land. I felt like felt like I was the people who I was shooting at. And then it happened for about 5 or 6 seconds. And then my consciousness shrunk back down. And then I was behind the machine gun still firing. And I remember having that experience. It took me years to really understand what had happened. I didn't even have a voice to explain what had happened. Fast forward a few years later, I eventually got out of the Marine Corps in 2012 after two really heavy combat deployments to Afghanistan. And I started reflecting on those experiences, started getting into different levels of spirituality, Eastern, schools of thought, mysticism, things like this. But then I also, had that leadership background of the military, which is organize, get things done, make things happen and move. So I came into this interesting space in my life where I didn't really know how to think about my military experience because in one sense I had been trained to, deliver results, be momentive, make things happen, close off the heart and move forward. But then all of my combat experiences really opened me up to the human condition. I was around life and death. So I also had a heart awakening as I reflected, multiple heart awakenings as I reflected on those experiences, from the life and death of my friends to having to take the lives of other human beings. So it really opened my heart up in multiple times. And so eventually my view of leadership shifted away from just getting things done, closing down your heart and making and moving things, making things happen, to how can you embody a way of leadership that honors the human heart, honors human potential, honors the goals that you set? Is there a definition of leadership and a way of being that allows people to still honor the human element, while at the same time honor the fact that we do have goals, that we do have a vision, we do have a space that we want to get to, and what was the middle ground? And so that was where I think my journey started, was in the military. And then when I got out of it, that really became the domineering question in my mind as I was moving through that space. How do you lead with impact and deliver results, but do it in a humane way?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jared. I think that what comes to mind from all of this is just noticing how there are certain organizations are often structured to eliminate empathy and actually see it as ineffective. When in reality, when you were in the heat of things, it was actually empathy that helped you be more effective. So can you speak to us a little bit about how empathy actually serves as a tool in leadership rather than an inconvenience?
I love that. Yeah, this topic really excites me. So what I found is, in the model of leadership that I was given in the Marine Corps was ruling with like fear and intimidation. Hey, fear, intimidation, it moves things, get it done. But the challenge that I'm seeing out in the business world right now is 54% of the workforce are millennials. Millennials really don't respond to fear, and they don't respond to intimidation. So a lot of the senior executive leadership in some of these classic corporations, and one of the ones that I'm in right now, Principal Financial Group, we're kind of moving things around with this space. Millennials don't respond to fear and intimidation. So they respond to understanding, they respond to empathy, and they respond to meaningful work and having a good vision. And so I think the next leaders that are coming into play, if companies are going to want to retain top talent, they need to adapt their leadership style that honors the human heart, but honors the vision. And one of the ways that I think we do that is transformational leadership. Transformational leadership is seeing the vision, seeing where people want to go, seeing where the organization wants to go, getting very clear about that vision, speaking that vision, having everyone on board with that vision, but then also seeing the potential within your employees, with the people around you, and leveraging their potential and inviting those individuals to step up and own that potential. As opposed to using fear and intimidation to move someone, you use positive emotion, you see the potential within them, and you invite them to step up and to step out and to step into the level of work. That's a model that I really use with my clients. That's a model that I use in my group programs. And it takes time to see this, but my last mentor I worked with was Michael Neal. He's been doing work for over 3 decades in the transformational space. He's worked with top companies everywhere. One of the things that I really valued and kind of embodied from him was you can use challenging energy and compassionate energy. If you're only ever using challenging energy, you can come across as like a tyrant and a dictator. And that might work in the short term, but it's not going to keep people around, and it's not going to retain top talent, especially the millennials, because the millennials just don't respond to that. They just don't. And 54% of the workforce is millennials. The other end of it is the compassion. You can still be compassionate, but if you're compassionate 24/7 and all the time, when an employee tells you, oh, you know what, my car broke down, or my kid's crying, can I take off this work? If you're just compassionate 24/7 all the time, nothing's ever going to get done as well either. So it's really learning how to flex those two energies. You can have empathy for a human being. Hey, I understand that you had a hard time this month, or I understand that you're going through some stuff. Speak to the resilience of the human spirit. Sometimes I'll have individuals who will come onto my group programs and they'll throw all this stuff at me, like, oh, like my dad just died, or my mom just died, or I'm just moving through the space. And I'll speak to that. I say, hey, I understand that you're hurting right now. I understand that you're grieving. I understand that your heart is hurting. I feel that, and I get that, and I've been there. However, I do see this potential within you to still move through the space and still do whatever it is that you need to get done. And I invite you to step up and own that potential. If it's really there. For some people, it may not be there. For some people, they really may need an actual break, and they're just like, I can't do this. This isn't possible. But the best leaders, the best transformational leaders will see if a person has that potential, and they'll invite them to step up. Human beings are so much more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. Like, there were times in the mission where we would have guys die all the time. People would get injured. I mean, we were combat ineffective on our deployment, 50% combat ineffective. All logistically, we should have been taken out of the environment that we were in because we were combat ineffective. We had so many casualties, but we still got up and did what we needed to do. And so that experience really showed me that you can still be empathetic, you can still be hurting, you can still be grieving, but you can still do things in the world. And that, I think, like, that's what it's all about. I think we're here to grow our spirit and realize how far our human spirit really can go. What I see sometimes when people experience hardship in life, they shut down their energy. Oh man, this is too hard. This feels really hard. And so I don't want to continue. That relationship to being challenged, or that relationship to life, that's not why we're here. Like, life is always going to throw stuff at us. I mean, we're spinning around on a rock in the middle of the universe. Asteroids. I don't know if you guys have been reading the news. There's like an asteroid that's coming really close to Earth, and it's like going by here within the next month. And it could, like, it's not going to hit the planet, but if it did, it would wipe out half of it. The point that I'm making is challenges are never going to stop happening. Human death is always going to happen. People, family transitions, cultures are going to change, societies are going to change. There's earthquakes. Like, we as a species are facing so much hardship every single day, collectively, individually. That's never going to happen. You can be empathetic for the human condition and what we're really up against, but still show up in a resilient manner. And I think that's what the best leaders do. They make people feel safe. They have compassion, they have empathy, but they also invite them to step up into a way of being that allows that person to be resilient. And that's what I do on a daily basis with myself. It's what I do on a daily basis with my team. It's what I do on a daily basis with my clients and the people that I work with as well.
Amazing. And one last question, because we don't have much time, but suppose that you have a very authoritarian C-level leader. Mm-hmm. And is there any exercise you can help him with so he can become a more empathetic leader, a more, leaders have to inspire. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of these C-level clients, and they're like 50 something. Mm-hmm. And some of them have told me, Annie, forget it. I'm not going to change. And I don't want to change. Is there some kind of exercise you can use in your coaching procedure?
Yeah. Well, first off, I think before I share the exercise, I think the first thing that we can do as coaches is understand and have empathy for why those people are the way that they are. I mean, I've coached these individuals and they got a lot on their shoulders. They got a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of money on the line. They have a lot of responsibility. People are giving them their word on a daily basis and not following through. By all their external conditions, they have every right to be upset, angry, use fear to make things happen and move things, and use intimidation. I totally understand the space that they're coming from. All that being said, just from my own experience and journey coaching these people, and there's been times where I've been that type of leader when I was in the military, it's important to understand and recognize why they are that way, and then show them an alternative possibility. no one is going to change until they see an alternative option. Like, I'm not going to change my driving route to, I don't know, say a client or work or whatever it is that I'm going, unless I see a better option. So if someone comes along and tells me, hey, is this way of working for you? It's like, well, I don't like it, but I don't see any other options. So if you don't got any other options for me, then I'm going to continue to be this way because I don't have any other options. But if you can show them a legitimate way of being different that still gets them the results that they're looking for, then absolutely, I would share that with them, hold that potential out in front of them, and then invite them to step in and follow that path. In any level of transformational work and shifting, there's going to be a time where, and this is change management even within companies, there's going to be a time where people see the other opportunity or the other possibility or way of doing or being, the way of doing or being, where they doubt that, and then they try it out, they see some results, and then they doubt it again, and then they feel a little bit better, and then they start seeing it work, and then they get inspired and excited, and then eventually it just becomes the new norm. I mean, that's just transformation at the societal level, the individual level. So I think what's most important is to show these types of individuals that you're working with, Annie and Kirsten, is to let them see the alternative and let them see that there's another possibility. And if they can see that other possibility, if you can just give them a vision of that and they can feel it, and all they have to do is feel it for a little bit and then invite them to step up and own that and get buy-in, then if they're willing to take the journey, they can change. It doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, I've seen clients change at 55. I was coaching one guy, awesome human being, Rick Wells. He ran 2 multi-million-dollar companies. Guy lives on a 60-foot yacht, has 10 kids. By all, I guess, things that are going on in his environment, by all means, he should be very stressed out, overwhelmed, and anxious all the time. But when we did our work together, I showed him an alternative way of doing things, like the way that I'm sharing with you guys right now. And over time, that way of being did come in for him. So it is possible. It's just that we have to show the other individual that a better way of doing it, and they have to be able to see it. Because at the end of the day, we really are monkey see, monkey do. If we see another person who's doing it and they embody that way of being and they're still getting those results, then then we know it's possible. So you have to hold out a vision for them, and you have to hold out an example. Like for me, I go back and forth with that on myself. I have a team around me. I manage people. I host group programs. I mean, we have our next program right now that goes in 10 days from now. We have 55 people in it. And so I'm managing all these different things. And there's times where I still get upset, or I get worried, or I get concerned, or I start seeing fear or something like that. And I start seeing intimidation come through. I invite my circle of influence around me to see me a particular way. That's another great technique, which brings us into the exercise. The best exercise that you can do is invite your circle of influence and the people around you, your inner circle, to see you as the person that you want to become. Mm-hmm. And to the person that you are becoming. Most old classical personal development says self-image is so important, so you got to see yourself a certain way. That's only one side of the coin. When we actually look at quantum physics, and at the base level, I'm going to get a little esoteric here, but it'll all work. At the base level, we are the rules of quantum physics apply to us. We're quantum, we're atomic and molecular at our very base level. One level above that, it's chemistry. The next level above that, it's biology, and then there's higher tiers there. What they found in the double slit experiment, which says that electron doesn't take its place in the atom until it's looked at by another conscious observer, basically saying that consciousness itself determines the physicality. If we at the atomic level, if the rules of quantum physics apply to us, then it's not just how we perceive ourselves that determines how we show up. It's also how people see us, which determines how we show up. And like, I play with this principle all the time in my programs. And so when I start getting into that fear-based mode and using intimidation, which rarely ever happens as much, but it still comes up every now and then, I can see it. I see it, and I invite my team and the people to see me as the person that I want to be and to the person who I continually want to become. And what that does is they see me as that, and then that's what comes out of me. Like, we're so powerful as human beings. Our perception is powerful. I mean, just how we see the world determines how we interact with it. But just how we see other people determines how they get created in that moment. Have you guys ever had that experience where you're with someone and they're seeing you a certain way, and just because they're seeing you a certain way, you start experiencing yourself almost showing up in that way? Have you guys had this experience?
Yes.
It's,
Neuro-linguistic programming.
oh, totally. It's trippy. I saw my niece. We had the first two grandbabies of the family this year in my family line. And when I first showed up and saw my niece, she's 6 months old. I saw this whole other, felt this whole other level come out of me. And I knew that wasn't me. That was her. That was like how she was perceiving me, just like as a blank space and, just a baby. That was it. And so it's really important to take this perception principle into mind as a leader. If you have a lot of people around you, you have a lot of weight on you, and a lot of responsibilities, it can be easy to slip into fear and intimidation. We want to switch it away from that. Invite your circle of influence, invite the people around you, invite your team to see you continually a certain way, and you'll see that a different way of doing things will come out of you. So I think that's the best exercise that you can do. Invite your circle of influence and the people who are closest to you to see you as the person that you continually want to be and become. And that will solidify your leadership skills, and that'll solidify who you are. And it's a much easier way of doing things. Yeah.
Love it.
Wonderful. And I wanted to add to that one of the ways that we can look at leadership or encourage leaders to adopt empathy is for them to look at two different aspects. First of all, that empathy is about gaining information. It's about actually learning how the other person is experiencing things. So if you look at there's even a thing that they call now emotional data. If we look at it from the very scientific point of view, but actually it's gaining information. And the second one is gaining flexibility. In order to be a leader, you need to have the flexibility to shift into different perspectives. That's actually going to shift strengthen a muscle in you that is going to help you be much more strategic, much more inspiring. So I would say those would be two ingredients that empathy has to offer, aside from the fact that it produces it enhances job performance overall and also well-being. So there's a lot of things that we can continue to explore at some time, but I really like that balance that you've given, Jared, between how change happens is actually receiving and feeling safe, and then moving forward. And change is not just moving forward and growth options. It's about how do we establish a sense of safety for the team, and that will help them fuel and better understand what their role is in the bigger picture.
I love that.
So thank you so much, Jared. And actually, if you can tell us briefly how people can get in touch with you if they're interested in your coaching services.
Thanks, Kirsten. Yeah, it's been, I love talking about this stuff. So really, thanks for the opportunity to share. I mean, this stuff always juices and jazzes me. It's what the world needs right now. And I mean, I could go on for hours. So if anyone wants to get in contact with me, you can check out my website, transformationalcoaching.co. And then I also have my YouTube channel as well, Transformational Coaching. It's .co, not .com. I couldn't get .com, so it's .co. So feel free to check that out. I got a lot of great free stuff and content there. I'd be more than delighted to have a conversation.
Thank you, Jared. It's been really nice meeting you. And thank you for all the followers we have, and have a very, very, very nice weekend.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.